Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Life is a journey, and that journey ain't always going to be easy. You'll come across some bumps, some bruises, some heartbreaks, and plenty of situations that make you feel like the world is crumbling right beneath your feet. You're going to encounter people who hurt you, situations that break your spirit, and times when your emotions are all over the place. Now, you might be asking yourself, how in the world do I deal with all of this? The truth is, it all comes down to one simple but powerful thing: learning how to emotionally detach. Now, don't get it twisted. Emotionally detaching doesn't mean that you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or heartless. Far from it. What it means is that you find the strength to create a little distance between yourself and the emotional chaos that surrounds you. You find the ability to respond rather than react. You take your power back. Let me tell you something I wish I knew earlier in life. There's a big difference between living in your emotions and living with them. See, when you live in your emotions, they control you. They make decisions for you. They get in the driver's seat and steer your life wherever they want it to go. But when you live with your emotions, when you learn to manage them, you stay in control. You're in the driver's seat, and you're making decisions from a place of strength, wisdom, and clarity. A lot of times we get caught up in the drama, we get caught up in the hurt, we get caught up in the situations that drain our energy, and we start to feel like we're at the mercy of everything and everyone around us. But let me tell you, it's not about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to what happens to you. You can't control other people's actions, but you can control your reactions. Emotional detachment is all about letting go of things that don't serve you. It's about creating space for your mind and your heart to heal, grow, and move forward. It's about understanding that you don't need to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You don't have to hold on to things that hurt, things that pull you down, things that rob you of your peace. But detaching doesn't mean you have to cut off love or cut off your feelings altogether. It's not about ignoring your emotions. It's about understanding them, respecting them, but not letting them run your life. Think about this. You've probably been through some painful experiences, breakups, disappointments, betrayals, failures, and I want to be clear with you, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. Those emotions are real, but the problem comes when we let those emotions define us, when we let them dictate our decisions, when we let them make us act out of desperation, fear, or pain. That's when we lose our power. You've got to understand something, and this is key. You're not your emotions. You are the person experiencing them. You are the one who has the ability to decide what those emotions mean. You are the one who has the power to decide how you're going to respond to those emotions. You can either let them control you, or you can acknowledge them, learn from them, and then choose to release them. The first thing you've got to do when you're trying to emotionally detach is recognize that your happiness, your peace, and your joy are not dependent on anyone else. I don't care what someone did to you. I don't care how bad the situation was. You have to make the conscious choice to let go of the emotional baggage. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Let me be clear. This is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But it's also one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. When you start practicing emotional detachment, you start to realize something important. You don't need other people's validation to feel good about yourself. You don't need anyone else's approval to know your worth. You don't need anyone to tell you that you're okay. Because deep down inside, you already know that you're more than okay. You're strong. You're capable. And you can handle whatever life throws your way. Now, I know there are times when it feels like the pain is just too much to bear. I know it feels like you can't shake off the weight of everything that's happened. But listen to me, healing is a process. And that process doesn't happen overnight. You can't rush it. You've got to give yourself the time and space to heal. And part of healing is detaching. Part of healing is letting go of the past and allowing yourself to move forward. So how do you emotionally detach? Let's break it down. First, you've got to acknowledge the emotions that are holding you hostage. Don't deny them. Don't suppress them. When you're hurting, admit it. When you're angry, admit it. When you're sad, admit it. But here's the trick. Once you've acknowledged those feelings, you don't stay stuck in them. You don't let them define your day, your week, your year, your life. When you can recognize what you're feeling, you take the power away from those emotions. You can say, yeah, I'm angry right now, but I'm not going to let this anger dictate my actions. You can say, yeah, I'm sad right now, but I'm not going to allow this sadness to stop me from moving forward. The second thing you've got to do is forgive. And I'm not just talking about forgiving other people, though that's important. I'm talking about forgiving yourself too. A lot of times we carry around guilt and shame from things we've done or things we wish we hadn't done. We hold on to that baggage and it keeps us emotionally stuck. But in order to detach and move forward, you've got to let that go. You've got to make peace with your past and stop punishing yourself for things that are already done. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. It's not about the other person, it's about freeing yourself. When you forgive, you're letting go of the emotional anchor that's been weighing you down. You're releasing the grip that the past has on your present. And let me tell you, that's when the healing starts. That's when the power comes back into your hands. Now, the third thing you've got to do is set boundaries. This is key. Emotional detachment isn't about cutting people off or shutting people out. It's about setting healthy boundaries so that you're not letting others have too much influence over your emotional state. You've got to protect your peace, and sometimes that means saying no to people or situations that drain you. I don't care who they are, whether it's family, friends, or even a partner, if they are not contributing to your peace, you have the right to step back. You have the right to protect your emotional well-being. You don't have to tolerate mistreatment, disrespect, or anything that makes you feel less than your best. It's okay to distance yourself from people or situations that make you feel like you're being drained of your energy. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's necessary. It's an act of self-love. You can't pour from an empty cup. And if you don't take care of yourself first, you won't have anything left to give. You've got to guard your heart, your mind, and your soul with the same passion and determination that you would guard your physical safety. Now, the fourth thing you've got to do is focus on your own growth. Emotional detachment is a part of your personal development journey. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. It's about learning how to stay grounded, how to stay focused on your goals, and how to live a life that brings you joy and fulfillment. When you're focused on your growth, you stop worrying so much about what other people think or what they're doing. You start to realize that your purpose in life is bigger than any drama, any disappointment, or any person who doesn't deserve your energy. So you've got to keep your eyes on the prize. You've got to keep your eyes on your goals. And when you face those challenges, and you will, because challenges are part of life, know that you've got the strength, the wisdom, and the ability to handle them. You don't need to emotionally attach yourself to every setback or every failure. Just keep going. Just keep moving forward. Because every step you take toward your personal growth is a step away from emotional pain and toward emotional freedom. Finally, and this is perhaps the most important thing, you've got to trust the process. Emotional detachment isn't something you can master overnight. It's not a switch that you flip and suddenly everything is fine. But over time, as you practice these principles, you'll start to notice a shift. You'll start to feel lighter. You'll start to feel more at peace. And one day you'll look back and realize that the emotional chaos you once lived in doesn't have a hold on you anymore. And that, my friend, is when you know you've truly detached. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you won't struggle. I'm not saying you won't have moments when you feel like giving up. But I am saying that you've got everything you need inside of you to overcome the emotional turbulence. You've got the strength, you've got the resilience, you've got the recognize and accept your emotions without letting them control your actions. Understand that while emotions are real, they don't define who you are. The key is to acknowledge how you feel, but choose not to stay stuck in those feelings or let them dictate your decisions. Practice forgiveness not only of others, but also of yourself. Release the emotional weight of past mistakes, regrets, and disappointments. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the past and allowing space for healing and emotional growth. protect your emotional well-being by setting boundaries with people and situations that drain you. Emotional detachment isn't about cutting people off, but about maintaining control over your own emotional state by limiting negative influences and guarding your peace. Shift your focus from external drama and emotional turmoil to your own growth, goals, and purpose. When you concentrate on your personal development and the bigger picture, you stop letting negative emotions and external challenges derail your peace, and you begin to create a life filled with fulfillment and emotional freedom. Life throws all kinds of emotions at us. Some are joyous and uplifting, others are painful and difficult to navigate. But no matter what, emotions are part of the human experience. The trick to emotional detachment is not to suppress or deny them, but to understand and acknowledge them for what they are. Emotional awareness and acknowledgement are the first critical steps in regaining control over your emotional life. Too often, people run from their feelings thinking that if they ignore them long enough, they'll disappear. But the truth is, when we ignore or suppress our emotions, we only give them more power. They end up controlling us. And instead of living our lives, we become prisoners of our own emotional responses. The first key to emotional detachment is learning to be aware of your emotions. And awareness doesn't just mean recognizing when you're angry or sad. It means being in tune with the subtle shifts that occur in your emotional state even before they hit their peak. Sometimes emotions creep up on you slowly, an undercurrent of irritation, a faint sense of anxiety, or a growing discomfort with a situation. If you don't catch these emotions in their early stages, they can snowball and get much harder to manage later on. Emotional awareness requires you to be present with yourself. It requires self-reflection and the ability to step back for a moment, take a breath, and observe what's going on inside. This kind of awareness is about asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? Where is this emotion coming from? Why is this emotion present in this moment? It's not about judging yourself for feeling something. It's simply about observing and understanding it. When you're emotionally aware, you give yourself permission to feel whatever you feel without shame or guilt. It's important to remember that emotions, no matter how uncomfortable they might be, are valid. When you feel anger, for example, it's telling you that something has crossed your boundaries or violated your sense of fairness. When you feel sadness, it might be signaling that you've lost something important or are facing a difficult change. These emotions are not inherently bad. They are information. They're signals from your body and mind telling you there's something in your environment or your life is asking for your attention. And rather than pushing them aside, you need to learn to listen. You've got to be honest with yourself. You can't detach from emotions if you're constantly lying to yourself about how you feel. Too many people walk around pretending they're fine, even when they're hurting. They keep it all bottled up, not allowing themselves the space to just be. And eventually, that emotional suppression takes a toll. You might not feel it right away, but over time, repressed emotions can lead to stress, burnout, and even physical health issues. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The longer you try to suppress it, the harder it becomes until eventually it pops up in ways you didn't expect. Maybe you snap at someone when you've been holding in anger for too long, or you break down in tears over something that in the grand scheme of things shouldn't have been such a big deal. That's your body and mind trying to release the tension you've built up. Now, there's a balance here. It's one thing to acknowledge an emotion, but it's another thing to let it take over. This is where emotional awareness and acknowledgement work hand in hand. You don't want to let your emotions consume you. You don't want to be driven by your emotional impulses. Recognizing your emotions allows you to step back and create the space you need to decide how you want to respond. You can experience emotions without being controlled by them. And that's where the power of emotional detachment comes in. It's important to realize that your emotions don't define you. They're part of you, but they are not you. You are the person who experiences emotions, but you are not beholden to them. This might sound a little counterintuitive because we're often taught to express our feelings and be led by our emotions. But emotional awareness gives you the space to separate yourself from your emotional reactions. Instead of reacting impulsively to the situation, you pause, reflect, and choose how you want to respond. When you acknowledge your emotions, you allow yourself to feel them in the moment. But here's the key: you don't let them control the narrative of your life. That's the difference between living in your emotions and living with your emotions. When you live in your emotions, you are constantly reacting to them, unable to see beyond them. But when you live with your emotions, you acknowledge them, you experience them, and then you let them pass. Emotions are like waves in the ocean. They come, they build, they crash, and then they recede. They don't last forever. The key is to let them flow through you rather than holding on to them. You don't have to cling to your anger or your sadness as if they are permanent parts of you. They are temporary states that will eventually move on, and when you recognize that, you can let go more easily. Another critical element of emotional awareness is understanding the root cause of your emotions. Sometimes we don't just feel anger because someone cut us off in traffic or disrespected us. There's often a deeper underlying cause. Maybe we're already stressed. Maybe we've been holding on to other frustrations that we haven't dealt with. Emotional awareness helps you identify those deeper layers. When you're able to see past the surface level emotional reaction, you begin to understand why certain situations trigger you. This awareness can be incredibly empowering because it allows you to deal with the root cause rather than just the symptoms. For instance, let's say you're angry at a friend because they canceled plans at the last minute. On the surface, it's about the canceled plans, but when you take a step back and reflect, you might realize that the anger is more about feeling neglected, unimportant, or unworthy of respect. When you understand the deeper cause of your emotion, you can address the root issue rather than just reacting to the surface situation. This kind of emotional awareness helps you respond with clarity and control rather than allowing your emotions to drive a hasty or destructive reaction. A key part of emotional awareness is also accepting that all emotions are temporary. When you're caught up in intense feelings, whether they're anger, sadness, frustration, or even joy, it's easy to believe that the feeling will last forever. But feelings are fleeting. They come and go, and they are rarely permanent. The sooner you can recognize that, the sooner you can detach emotionally. When you're in the thick of a difficult emotion, remind yourself, this too shall pass. It won't last forever. The intense anger you feel after an argument will eventually subside. The grief after loss will eventually soften. Emotional awareness helps you weather the storm because you recognize that no emotion is permanent, and you can trust that it will shift with time. Learning to acknowledge your emotions also involves accepting them without judgment. It's one thing to be aware of your emotions, but it's another to accept them without criticism. Many of us grow up with the idea that certain emotions like anger or sadness are bad or weak. We may feel guilty or ashamed for feeling these things, especially in situations where society tells us we're supposed to be strong or happy, but the truth is, emotions aren't inherently good or bad, they just are. They're part of the human experience, and they serve a purpose. Anger, for example, can motivate you to set better boundaries. Sadness can open you up to deeper empathy and connection. Fear can keep you safe and help you make wiser choices. Every emotion has its value if you're willing to acknowledge it and understand it. In the process of emotional detachment, it's not about denying or avoiding emotions, it's about developing a healthy relationship with them. You learn to observe your emotions as they arise, accept them for what they are, and then decide how to move forward. This level of awareness takes practice. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a lifelong skill that requires patience, self-compassion, and the willingness to be honest with yourself. When you master emotional awareness and acknowledgement, you gain the ability to respond rather than react. And that's the heart of emotional detachment. You don't allow your emotions to make decisions for you. You don't let them lead you into behaviors that you'll regret. You take control and you make conscious choices about how you want to show up in the world. Emotional awareness is the first step in reclaiming your emotional power. Forgiveness is one of the most transformative acts you can offer yourself. It is not merely about releasing another person from the burden of their wrongdoing. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight that holds you back from living fully, from moving forward in your life. In a world where we're often encouraged to hold grudges, seek revenge, or nurse our wounds until they define us, forgiveness might seem like an impossible or unnecessary choice. Yet nothing is more essential to emotional detachment and personal growth than understanding the profound power of forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting the wrongs that have been done to you. It doesn't mean you condone the hurt or injustice. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you or that you just accept mistreatment. Forgiveness is about releasing the hold that the pain, anger, or resentment has over you. It is about understanding that holding on to past hurt doesn't change what happened. It only keeps you tethered to a moment that is already gone. It's about choosing peace over pain, freedom over bitterness, and growth over stagnation. The first step in forgiveness is recognizing that it's for you, not the person who wronged you. Too often, we think of forgiveness as a gift we give to someone else, but the real gift is for ourselves. When you hold on to anger, resentment, or grudges, you are carrying around emotional baggage that drains your energy, clouds your judgment, and keeps you stuck in a state of perpetual hurt. Forgiveness is not an act of weakness, but of strength. It takes incredible strength to forgive, especially when the person who hurt you has shown no remorse or has continued to act in ways that reinforce the pain they caused. But forgiveness is about taking control of your own emotional state, regardless of someone else's behavior. You are the one who gets to decide whether or not you will continue to be a victim of your circumstances or whether you will reclaim your peace and your power. In order to forgive, you have to be willing to let go of the need for justice or retribution. I know this is hard to hear, especially when someone has wronged you in a way that feels unforgivable. But forgiveness is not about the other person getting away with their actions. It's about releasing the hold those actions have on you. Holding on to bitterness and anger only prolongs your suffering. In many cases, the person who hurt you may have long since moved on with their life, and your pain is doing nothing but keeping you stuck. Letting go doesn't mean you are condoning what happened. It simply means you are no longer allowing it to define your future. Forgiveness is a process, and it's not always easy. There are days when you may feel like you've forgiven someone, and then something triggers the old hurt, and you find yourself back in the same place of anger or sadness. That's normal. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line. It's more like a spiral. You may feel like you're going in circles, but every time you revisit the pain, you learn more about yourself and you get closer to true emotional freedom. The key is to keep going, to keep choosing forgiveness, and to keep reminding yourself that letting go is ultimately a choice for your own well-being. Another crucial part of forgiveness is recognizing that holding on to past hurt prevents you from fully embracing the present. When you carry old emotional wounds into new situations, you bring a cloud of negativity and distrust that prevents you from fully engaging with the people around you. Forgiveness clears that cloud. It creates space for new experiences, new relationships, and a renewed sense of trust in yourself and others. When you forgive, you no longer have to be shackled to your past. You become free to step into a new version of yourself, one who is stronger, wiser, and more capable of handling life's challenges. But let me be clear, emotional detachment through forgiveness doesn't mean you allow people to repeatedly hurt you. Forgiving someone doesn't mean you should continue to stay in toxic or abusive relationships. Forgiveness allows you to release the emotional hold the person has on you, but it doesn't mean you should keep exposing yourself to harm. Sometimes the act of forgiveness is about stepping away from someone or something that no longer serves your well-being. In fact, forgiveness can often help you see things more clearly, and in doing so, you realize that certain relationships or situations are no longer healthy for you. And that's okay. The importance of forgiving yourself cannot be overstated. Often we are our harshest critics, and we carry around guilt, shame, and regret for things we've done or failed to do. We hold ourselves to impossible standards, and when we don't live up to those standards, we punish ourselves. This self-judgment can be just as debilitating as holding on to anger toward others. If you cannot forgive yourself, you will never truly move forward in your life. Self-forgiveness is about accepting that you are human, that you will make mistakes, and that you deserve the same compassion and understanding that you give to others. The mistakes you've made don't define you. They're part of your story, but they don't have to be the whole story. Forgiving yourself means releasing the guilt and shame that have been holding you hostage. It means letting go of the past so that you can embrace the future. You are allowed to make mistakes to learn and to grow. Holding on to guilt only keeps you tied to a past version of yourself that is no longer relevant to who you are becoming. Self-forgiveness is not about excusing your behavior or erasing the consequences of your actions. It's about accepting responsibility for what you've done, making amends where possible, and choosing to do better moving forward. One powerful tool in the process of forgiveness is gratitude. I know it may sound counterintuitive, especially when you're dealing with deep pain, but there is always something to be learned from difficult situations. When you can find something to be grateful for, and even the worst circumstances, you begin to change your perspective. Gratitude shifts your focus away from the hurt and toward the lessons. Perhaps the pain you've endured has helped you grow stronger, more resilient, or more empathetic toward others. Maybe it has taught you the importance of setting boundaries or standing up for yourself. When you can see the gift in the pain, you start to take the power away from the hurt and give it back to yourself. One of the most important things to remember is that forgiveness is not an event, it's a practice. You don't just forgive someone once and forget about it. It's an ongoing process. There may be days when you feel like you've forgiven, and then something comes up that reignites the old wounds. That's okay. It's part of the process. Every time you choose to forgive, you are loosening the grip that the hurt has on you. Over time, it gets easier, and the emotional charge of the situation diminishes. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, and the more you practice it, the more peace you will experience. Forgiveness, in the end, is not just about healing from the past, it's about freeing yourself to fully live in the present. When you forgive, you are not giving the other person permission to hurt you again. You are taking your own power back. You are no longer defined by the pain they caused. You are no longer stuck in a cycle of resentment and bitterness. You are free to move forward. And that is the true power of forgiveness. The ability to forgive and let go is one of the most profound acts of emotional liberation you can experience. It's not just about releasing others, it's about releasing yourself from the past so you can step fully into your future. When you let go, you let yourself heal. And healing is what makes you whole. The first thing you need to understand about boundaries is that they are not about building walls. They are not about shutting people out or isolating yourself. In fact, boundaries are about creating space for healthier relationships, for your own well-being, and for a balanced life. A boundary is simply a clear line that you draw to protect your physical, emotional, and psychological energy. It is a way of saying, this is where I end and where you begin. Boundaries give you the clarity and structure you need to ensure that you can operate at your best without feeling overwhelmed, stunted, or used up. The truth is, when you don't have boundaries, you're allowing others to take from you your time, your energy, your attention, your peace of mind. People will take advantage of your lack of boundaries, whether intentionally or unintentionally, because they don't know where to stop. They may ask more of you than you're comfortable giving. They may lean on you for support without considering how much you're sacrificing in return. They may demand your time, your resources, your emotional energy, and you may find yourself running on empty with nothing left to give to yourself or those who truly matter to you. And the more you give, the more you teach people to take without thinking of your needs. Learning to set boundaries starts with recognizing that your needs matter. Your emotions, your well-being, your time, and your energy are valuable, and it's okay to protect them. For some people, this can feel uncomfortable at first. We live in a culture where being nice and putting others first is often seen as virtuous, but the truth is, constantly putting others before yourself can lead to burnout, resentment, and emotional depletion. Setting boundaries isn't about being selfish, it's about understanding that if you don't take care of yourself first, you won't have the energy to take care of anyone else, and you certainly won't be able to show up in your life in the way you deserve to. The second key to setting healthy boundaries is knowing what your limits are. This requires self-awareness, which many of us don't take the time to develop. We may be so caught up in the demands of others or the expectations placed on us that we forget to check in with ourselves. You cannot set boundaries if you don't know what your limits are. Take time to reflect on what you need, where you feel drained and what triggers feelings of resentment, frustration, or stress. Your body, mind, and heart will often give you clues. If you feel drained after certain interactions or obligations, that's a sign that you're overextending yourself. If you feel resentful, it could be a sign that you're giving more than you can handle or that you're not receiving the respect or consideration you deserve. Once you identify your limits, you need to communicate them clearly and confidently. Boundaries are not effective if you don't express them to others. You might worry about how others will react or fear that they will be upset or disappointed with you. But here's the reality: people who respect you will respect your boundaries. People who don't respect your boundaries are not people you should be trying to please in the first place. Setting boundaries requires courage and assertiveness. It means saying no when you need to, even if you feel guilty about it. It means saying, I need time for myself when others want to take up your time. And it means being honest about what you can and cannot do without feeling obligated to explain yourself over and over. A common fear people have when setting boundaries is the fear of disappointing others. It's normal to want to be liked or to avoid conflict, but if you live your life constantly trying to make everyone else happy, you'll end up compromising your own happiness, and that's a dangerous pattern to fall into. Boundaries allow you to be true to yourself without feeling guilty or overly responsible for other people's feelings. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own needs, desires, and boundaries, and that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. You are not obligated to overextend yourself in order to maintain someone else's comfort or happiness. The third key to healthy boundaries is learning to say no without feeling bad about it. Saying no is one of the most powerful tools in setting boundaries, but it's also one of the hardest for many people. We are often conditioned to say yes to everything to help others, to be agreeable, to avoid letting anyone down. But the truth is, saying yes to everything means you're saying no to yourself, saying yes when you don't want to, when you're overwhelmed, or when you're not able to give your best as a form of self-sabotage. You're teaching people that your time and energy are limitless, and you're setting yourself up for burnout. When you set boundaries, you give yourself permission to say no when it's necessary. Saying no isn't rude or unkind, it's a form of self-respect. It's recognizing that you cannot do everything, be everywhere, or help everyone. Saying no allows you to conserve your time and energy for the things and people that matter most to you. And here's the thing: when you say no to things that drain you, you say yes to things that nurture and recharge you. You say yes to your personal well-being, to your growth, and to your peace of mind. Of course, saying no doesn't always have to be harsh or blunt. You can say no in a way that is respectful and kind while still maintaining your boundaries. For example, you can say, I would love to help, but I have too much on my plate right now. Or I'm sorry, I can't make it this time, but thank you for thinking of me. You don't need to explain yourself excessively or justify your decisions. The mere act of saying no with conviction is enough. Over time, you'll find that people begin to respect your boundaries, and your own sense of self-respect will grow. In these situations, it's essential to remain calm, confident, and consistent. Don't let guilt or fear derail you. Remind yourself that you are not responsible for how others feel or for their reactions to your boundaries. People may get upset or frustrated, but that's their emotional work, not yours. You can remain kind and empathetic while still maintaining a firm boundary. For example, you might say, I understand that you're disappointed, but my decision stands. Or, I hear your request, but I've already made other plans and I need to honor my time. The more consistently you enforce your boundaries, the more others will come to respect them. Healthy boundaries also involve protecting your emotional space. It's not just about saying no to physical requests or obligations. It's about protecting yourself from emotional drain, from people who take more than they give, and from toxic or manipulative behavior. Emotional boundaries are just as important as physical ones. You have the right to distance yourself from conversations, relationships, or environments that make you feel unsafe, uncomfortable, or emotionally depleted. You don't have to explain your reasons for setting emotional boundaries. You simply have the right to protect your heart and mind. Finally, setting boundaries is an ongoing process. As you grow and evolve, your needs will change, and so will the boundaries you set. Boundaries are not static, they are dynamic. They may shift depending on your circumstances, relationships, and life stage. It's important to regularly check in with yourself and assess whether your boundaries are still serving you. Are they protecting you? Are they giving you the space to thrive? Are they allowing you to maintain your peace of mind, your emotional well-being, and your relationships with others? Setting healthy boundaries is a lifelong practice. It requires continual self-awareness, self-respect, and self-advocacy. But as you build the habit of honoring your limits and communicating them clearly, you'll find that your life becomes more balanced, your relationships become healthier, and your emotional energy becomes more aligned with your true needs and desires. One of the most empowering and transformative things you can do for yourself is to direct your energy and focus toward personal growth and discovering your purpose. In a world that often encourages us to look outside ourselves for validation, success, and fulfillment, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that true contentment and success come from within. Personal growth is not a one-time event or a quick fix. It's a continuous journey that requires patience, self-reflection, and the courage to evolve. Focusing on personal growth means investing in yourself, your mental, emotional, and physical well-being, so that you can show up as the best version of yourself. And in the process, you'll naturally begin to connect with a deeper sense of purpose that will guide you through life's challenges and triumphs. The foundation of personal growth, self-awareness. Personal growth begins with self-awareness. You cannot grow if you are not aware of where you currently stand, what your strengths are, and where you need improvement. Self-awareness is the cornerstone of personal development because it allows you to see yourself clearly, your thoughts, your behaviors, your patterns, and your triggers. Without this insight, it becomes impossible to make conscious changes or improvements. Self-awareness involves honestly assessing yourself, being open to feedback from others, and learning how to recognize your emotional and mental states in real time. Take time to reflect on who you are and where you're at in your life. Ask yourself questions like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the patterns in my behavior that are no longer serving me? Where do I feel stuck? And what's preventing me from moving forward? What do I value most in life? And am I living in alignment with those values? These questions might be uncomfortable at first, but they will guide you to the insights you need in order to grow. Self-awareness also involves acknowledging your emotional responses. Emotions are powerful signals, but they can also cloud your judgment if you don't take the time to understand them. By observing how you respond to different situations, you can begin to unravel the deeper motivations behind your actions. This level of awareness helps you identify limiting beliefs, unhealthy habits, and emotional patterns that may be holding you back from becoming the person you want to be. Building the right mindset for growth. The next step in personal growth is cultivating the right mindset. A growth mindset, as opposed to a fixed mindset, is the belief that your abilities, intelligence, and qualities can be developed through dedication, effort, and learning. People with a fixed mindset believe that their traits are innate and cannot be changed, while those with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities for improvement, learning, and self-mastery. To focus on your personal growth, you must develop a mindset that embraces learning and sees failure as a stepping stone to success. Too often, people avoid pursuing new goals or learning new skills because they fear failure. But failure is not something to be avoided. It is part of the growth process. Every setback, every mistake, and every challenge is an opportunity to learn something new about yourself and your capabilities. A growth mindset frees you from the fear of imperfection and opens the door to continuous improvement. Embrace the idea that there is always room for growth. Your past doesn't define you, and your mistakes are not permanent marks on your character. With the right mindset, you can always start over, adjust your approach, and keep moving forward. This is the foundation for building resilience and perseverance, the qualities that will help you navigate life's inevitable challenges. Setting clear goals aligned with your purpose. Once you have a foundation of self-awareness and the right mindset for growth, the next step is to set clear goals that are aligned with your deeper sense of purpose. Having goals gives your life direction and focus, but goals are only meaningful if they align with your values, passions, and long-term vision. Start by asking yourself, what is my purpose? What do I truly want to accomplish in life and why? What brings me fulfillment, meaning and joy? Your purpose is not something that can be found outside of yourself. It's something that already exists within you. It's the unique combination of your strengths, your passions, and your values. Discovering your purpose is a process that requires you to reflect on what makes you feel alive, what gives you energy, and what you care deeply about. Once you've identified your purpose, begin to break it down into actionable goals. These goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound smart. By setting clear goals, you are creating a roadmap that will keep you focused and motivated as you work toward fulfilling your purpose. It's important to note that your goals should be flexible. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes the path you set for yourself will need to be adjusted based on new information, experiences, or changes in your circumstances. Flexibility is key to long-term success, as it allows you to adapt without losing sight of your larger vision. Overcoming limiting beliefs and embracing change. Personal growth also involves confronting and overcoming limiting beliefs. These are the negative thoughts and assumptions you hold about yourself and the world around you that limit your potential. Limiting beliefs often stem from past experiences, societal conditioning, or fear. For example, you might believe that you're not capable of achieving your goals because of a past failure or because others have told you that you can't do it. These beliefs create self-imposed barriers that keep you from reaching your full potential. To overcome limiting beliefs, it's important to recognize them first. This requires self-reflection and honesty with yourself. What beliefs do you hold that are holding you back? Do you believe that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, or not deserving of success? Once you've identified these beliefs, challenge them. Are they based on facts, or are they simply assumptions or past experiences that no longer apply? Often you'll find that your limiting beliefs are not grounded in reality. They are just stories you've told yourself that no longer serve you. To break free from these beliefs, you need to reframe your thinking and replace the negative thought patterns with empowering ones. For example, instead of thinking, I'm not good enough to start my own business, reframe it as I have the skills, knowledge, and ability to learn and grow as I build my business. This shift in thinking opens up new possibilities and removes the self-imposed limits you've placed on yourself. Embracing change is also an essential part of personal growth. Change is inevitable, and in order to grow, you must be willing to adapt and step outside of your comfort zone. Change often feels uncomfortable, especially when it challenges your current beliefs or requires you to learn new skills. But growth cannot happen without change. Embrace the discomfort that comes with growth and remind yourself that the reward on the other side of that discomfort is often worth the effort. The importance of consistency and persistence. As you focus on your personal growth and purpose, it's essential to remain consistent and persistent. Growth doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent effort over time. Small steps forward every day add up to big results. Often, the journey toward personal growth can feel slow, especially when you don't see immediate results. But consistency is what creates momentum and makes your growth sustainable in the long run. Create daily habits and routines that support your goals. Whether it's dedicating time each day to work on your personal development, practicing mindfulness, exercising, reading, or learning new skills, small daily actions lead to massive long-term changes. The key is to stay committed, even when you don't see instant results. Over time, your persistence will pay off, and you'll look back and realize how far you've come. Remember, setbacks and obstacles are a natural part of the process. The road to growth is not linear, and you will face challenges along the way. But persistence is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. Keep going, even when it gets tough, and trust that each step you take brings you closer to your ultimate purpose. Aligning your actions with your values. Finally, personal growth is deeply connected to the alignment between your actions and your values. Your values are the principles and beliefs that guide your decisions, behavior, and relationships. They are the core of who you are and what matters most to you. When you align your actions with your values, you create a life of authenticity and integrity. It's easy to get caught up in the expectations and pressures of others, but if your actions aren't aligned with your values, you'll feel a sense of inner conflict or dissatisfaction. Take time to clarify what your values are. What do you stand for? What kind of person do you want to be? What impact do you want to have in the world? Once you've identified your core values, make sure that your daily actions reflect them. This alignment will create a sense of fulfillment and purpose that cannot be found in external achievements alone. Living in alignment with your values helps you make decisions that feel right for you. Whether you're choosing a career path, a relationship, or how you spend your free time, making choices based on your values will lead you to a more meaningful, purposeful life. Conclusion. Focusing on personal growth and purpose is a lifelong journey, one that requires dedication, self-awareness, and a willingness to evolve. It's about understanding who you are, where you want to go, and taking consistent steps toward becoming the person you were meant to be. Along the way, you will face challenges, make mistakes, and encounter setbacks, but if you stay focused on your growth and your purpose, you will always find a way forward. Keep building a growth mindset, set goals aligned with your deeper purpose, overcome your limiting beliefs, and commit to consistent action. In doing so, you will not only transform yourself, but also create a life filled with fulfillment.